Okay. Good evening or afternoon. I want to call the regular board meeting of the Lewes BPW to order on January 25th. So first,
No, June.
what did I say?
January.
I have been corrected and duly noted. It is June 25th. So first item, I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Thank you very much. So first we'll do the roll call, and we have Barbara Curtis, Preston Lee, Bob Heffernan. Oh, is Bob online?
I'm here, but I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay, and Richard Nichols is excused today. Ex officios, we have Amy Marasco as being played by Khalil Saliba, Robin Davis, Sharon Sexton, and Michael Hoffman, our legal counsel. Before we move on, I just want to make a couple of statements about the power outages this last Monday and Tuesday. We understand how disruptive this is to everyone, and it is not what we aspire to, and we know that it is not what we expect you to accept. We have in the past always received reliability awards for our electrical system. This is not a good case of that. So we had 4 outages over approximately 1 day, and 2 of them lasted approximately an hour, and 2 of them were a shorter duration on the order of 15 minutes. And we apologize once again for the disruption to everyone for that. We are going to do future investigations onto what actually caused it. Right now, the substation has been restored to its normal condition, and everything is being fed normally. So, with that, we will provide more information once we've had a chance to sit down and digest everything that happened. So, moving on, consent agenda. Does anyone want anything removed?
No.
Okay.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, I move we approve the consent agenda.
You have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And so it's 4 with 1 absent. So we're going to have a new policy now going forward to try to be more open to the public. And so we're going to have a call to the public at the beginning for people who want to speak on things that aren't necessarily on the agenda. But if you want to speak about something on the agenda, that's fine. And we will have another one at the end of the meeting, which will be for people to talk about items that are on the agenda so they can respond to what's presented. And so the rules for the public comments are there will be no opportunity. No action. So there's not going to be a public comment. Is strictly for the public to make comments. It's not a discussion with the board. The board can discuss them after the fact. And there will be a 3-minute limit on any individual, and you can't turn your time over to someone else. So I think that's it. So call to the public. And state your name and your location.
Is this on? Yes. Yes.
Yes.
My name is Kathy Edwards, and I live on Kings Highway. Years. So I yesterday. That said, pay for someone to provide your emergency phone, they're taking advantage of you, and you need to. And fixing electricity in too many developments so that our infrastructure has not caught up. And I'll just ask this question. What amount do developers need to pay to the Board of Public Works? Power outage, but I'm in up here.
Really appreciate your comments. Thank you very much. Anyone else? So the one thing I should have mentioned in my discussion on the power outage is the call center. We're aware of it. We have problems. We are addressing them, and, but we will have on the agenda at a future meeting a thorough discussion, because right now we have to put together a sequence of events and other things. So once again, we understand we let everyone down, and we will work to make it better. Thank you. All right. Receive the Inframark report. How you doing, Jeff?
Not too bad, considering everything. All right, so.
So the report looks very good. It looks like the plant is running very well. A couple of nits. On the Gantt chart,
Yes, sir.
if you wouldn't mind adding light gray lines horizontally to make it easier to follow from the right to the left. Nit. But the last one on, the train 4 gate seals,
Yes.
there's no items here. I know you're working on it, we've discussed it, but
So the seals have been ordered. We discussed it with Schell and Logan, and we ordered the seals. I've contacted them again this week.
and so are we still incapable of sealing that train to clean it?
Yes. So we had a discussion, if I don't receive anything soon, what we're gonna look at doing is actually swapping the membranes to another.
It's ingenious, but yeah, I know it's extra work.
It's extra work, but it's better than fouling the membranes and having to spend the money to replace them.
Thank you. And the last item, the turbidity meters,
Yes.
the replacement.
So we are looking to either recalibrate or replace those. Challenge because $1,000.
What's the approximate cost of the turbidity meter?
That particular one, I did look it up, and I cannot remember off the top of my head.
I just thought as a magnitude.
About $3,500.
All right. I don't know if you wanted to move that, because it's not in your report at all, it's only in the Viola.
No, so yeah, we can put it in our report,
Yeah.
it's something that we're looking at, and it's also a possibility that the cleaning process that one of the operators has been using, he cleans it,
Else have questions, comments?
Just a very minor question. Looking at the maintenance fee expenditures, it mentions temporary pump for sludge return and fittings. What happened with the pump that you needed a temporary one? I didn't see that anywhere in the maintenance orders. Okay, thanks. And I had wondered about why, Train 4 was doing so badly, but yeah, you explained. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Enjoy the cool weather. Oh, by the way, just one question.
Yes, sir.
I know, actually, forget it. Okay.
You're up.
President's report. So, we had the power outage, we discussed that, and we are going to do a deep dive into the maintenance and everything else of the substation. But, frankly, as everyone knows, we do have a high reliability rating, but this was a completely unacceptable condition. So we had attended mayor and city council. Robin and I attended a meeting with Burton and the city, and the Burton subdevelopment in the city. We had discussions with GMB. I think Robin's going to cover that. So we're going to discuss an MOU with GMB for services. The workshop for the wastewater treatment with the county is probably going to be the middle of July or towards the end of July. So we're working in after the holidays and after we get a few more things cleared up. But we're moving forward with that, and thanks to Hans and Todd and Gina. We've had meetings with Sussex County over the last month, also just to discuss these agreements. And just for everyone's information, we will be having a joint session with the city on
Last Monday.
last Monday in July.
It's the 28th.
And that will be at the Rollins Center. So that's all I had then. Robin.
Okay, Tom went over a couple of things that I had on my list. Myself and several of the board members attended the DMAC Joint Council briefing. We attended virtually the latest Lewes Planning Commission meeting. We had completed the loan closing for the $1 million supplemental funding for the elevated storage tank on June 13th. We had several progress meetings on some development projects going on. Attended the leadership meeting with the mayor and Tom and city staff, Ellen, Lorraine, and Janet. We prepared some documents on a request for CPCN, for water CPCN on a property on New Road.
It's on the agenda tonight.
Yes, which is on the agenda tonight. We had the walkthrough inspections for the wellfield header project and the canal crossing water projects, which are basically all completed. Just the walkthrough is the final step, punch list items, and then they can be closed out. As far as the water tank, elevated water tank project, their contractors are hopefully in July will finish up the foundation work and the underground piping, and then I think they're going to shut down work at the site for the summer, and then they'll come back. They're still fabricating stuff at the plant during the summer, but they're not going to do any actually site work out there during the summer. As far as some of the other projects, the 4th Street and Hornkill water, sewer, and projects, they're still running along as projected. GMB is still working forward with some design and surveying for those projects. We did, as requested by the board, met with Sargent Lundy about receiving a quote for an estimate on design of possible undergrounding, which is also on the agenda. We can talk about a little later. Those two projects, like a lot of projects, are on our homepage on our website. So if we'll update periodically with any status updates on those. So if people want to look on our website, they can find out the latest information on that. As with our other projects, once we start construction, there's usually a monthly progress meeting that the public is welcome to come to hear all the updates on the construction. We have a Capes Cove project, which is a mobile home park out, a 13-unit mobile home park out on New Road. We had the design of that project. It's a water and sewer project. Design is complete. We obtained the permits and held a pre-bid meeting yesterday. We're looking to hopefully award the bid next month, with construction starting in August. That project is estimated to end March, April timeframe of next year. The final thing I have on my report is I would just like to formally announce the promotion of Sharon Sexton as our Assistant General Manager. She's been a valued employee since May of 21.
Thank you.
And so.
Might be crazy, but
She stepped up great. It's valuable, very valuable.
thank you.
Okay, item 9, old business. Oh, no, excuse me. Item 8, it's finance manager.
She may be online. She was at a training today. I don't know if she's made it back yet.
Is Kim there?
No.
So we probably can pass this on till next month then?
Yeah, we
Or
can do that.
Robin, do you have anything you want to add?
No, Kim didn't provide any update on stuff.
Is there any understanding why electricity
Yeah, right.
sales would be down 5%?
Open forum, general discussion of the resolution.
I'll just ask a question.
Oh,
Oh,
Is there any understanding of why electricity
Bob, we can't hear you.
sales would? Well, I'm
We
talking.
can't hear you.
It might be on our
Well,
end.
that's on your end.
It is on our end. Speaker.
You can't hear us, obviously. Technology.
It's great when it works.
We haven't had a lot of luck with that one.
No.
Got it working at noon.
Do it by phone?
Bob, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Oh, we got you now.
Okay,
I need to get with Phil.
all right.
My question was, is there any explanation of why electricity sales are down 5% year to date?
I'm not sure, like I said, Kim is, hopefully, was hoping we should be on.
Kim does the numbers. Can we guess why people would be using less? Is it degree days or some great conservation? I don't think this is a Kim question.
Actually, the question, because I don't know what the billing cycle was this month, because sometimes it's less days, and I think it is something we need to get researched by Kim.
It's
Okay,
also cooler than last year's May, I believe. I don't know how that impacts.
Did have a cold spot there
Yeah.
for.
yeah. Well, water is up. Why would that be? Less irrigation. I'm kind of the opinion that we should have some understanding of our customers.
And Bob, we're really having trouble hearing you.
Well, I'm talking and I'll chat again, okay?
All right. What's that?
Would you ask Bob to just restate it?
Yeah, can you restate your last statement about water?
I think he said water usage was down.
Oh, I think it's up.
Up.
They're not directly linked. I mean, they can be with high temperatures, but otherwise irrigations run whether it's cool or warm.
Yeah, I would say that, yeah, the irrigations are just going to run. They're set on a timer.
Right.
They're not going to be shut off. So at a certain time during the year, they just automatically going to come on. And, you know, we do have a few more homes this year than previously, so without looking into real details, that's probably a general explanation why.
So, Bob, if you can send your questions in directly, we'll get Kim and the team to look at it. It's too difficult, because then the phone is going to be. Is that okay, Bob?
I sent a quote. I sent a question. It's in the chat.
I don't think there would necessarily be less water in cool temperatures, because if it's like mine, I think most systems, they're on timers. It doesn't care whether it's 60 or 100 degrees. So
Well, some of us micromanage our timers.
well, I just turned mine up, actually, because of the
yeah.
heat. But
But I turn them down, turn them off, if you're getting a wet spell or a cold spell.
well, wet spell, I'm gonna have a ground sensor. But anyway, I think it's difficult to make this conversation, and I think you have valid questions, Bob. But without Kim here and you being present, it's a little difficult to proceed.
Let us, when Kim gets back in, we can take a look and compare if it's on the residential side, commercial side, industrial side, we might get a better idea. So we'll do some research and we'll come back to you.
It's on the residential,
Is it?
yeah.
Okay, says, I think we should have some idea of what our customers are doing, okay?
We'll follow up.
Okay. So, so now we're back to 9. I'm losing track. So open forum general discussion on a resolution to extend BPW service area for the water utility to include parcel 335.8.00-5.04 New Road. Robin?
As we discussed the last couple of meetings, we had a request from a property owner on New Road requesting sewer and water. We had discussion last month. The board approved to moving forwards with providing service to that property. We currently have the sewer service area. We do not have the water CPCN area. We have to go through that process. The owner has filled out a petition and a request to send it in to us. We've went ahead and started the process of obtaining approval from the Public Service Commission for this. One of the steps in that process is a resolution is needed by the board allowing this so we can put that part of the application. Also, I think next month it's on the city, going to be on the city agenda for approval to consent to allow us to serve this property.
So do I have a motion to,
Just real quick, also to add, there was a request on a side agreement relative, I think Press, you had mentioned on the liability piece. So in the resolution, we did incorporate, it's my voice, I have a loud voice. We did include a requirement that they sign a development agreement before they commence construction. So that's in the resolution. So the only thing I would ask is when you get to the motion for approval, the motion is going to be to approve the resolution conditioned on city council granting its consent.
all right, motion to have the resolution read by title only.
So moved.
When do we have discussion or questions?
Well,
After the motion, second then? Yeah. Okay,
second, all in favor?
now,
Aye.
discussion,
So hold on, so let's read it by title only and then we'll have discussion.
yes.
All right,
Mr. President, members of the board, resolution number 25-005, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Board of Public Works of the City of Lewes to extend the Board of Public Works service area for water utility operations. Mr. President, resolution number 25-005 has been read by title only and placed before the board for its consideration and adoption.
now it's open to discussion.
Okay, there was some discussion at a prior meeting that if we're going to do the CPCN, the application for it, that the other homeowners nearby should be notified. Has that been done?
Yes, they were working on that. The last I heard, they have heard back from 2 that, yes, we may be interested, but we don't want to annex in the city. So I guess that's something that the city's going to have to take, again, if they request. I mean, it's going to be part of this, the same thing that this gentleman's going through. The city's going to have to discuss that annexation possibility with this owner as they move forward.
Building off of kind of the discussion, I think where we landed with the development agreement will cover is they're going to upsize the sewer so that when and if the neighbors are interested in tapping in, it will already be there to receive that connection. That is on the applicant's dime. So they will construct it, they will have it set up to receive should the future interest be there. And again, that'll be addressed in the development agreement. The water line is just going to be a single line service. So that capacity, at least for sewer, will be there for future owners.
Thank you. I also appreciate the explanation of why there was just a resolution covering water and not sewer. I wondered about that. Thanks.
So do I have a motion to approve the resolution with the condition that it's subject to be approved by the city council?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bob? Okay. Moving on, item 10. Open forum general discussion on a possible upgrade options for Pump Station 5 as part of the Pump Station Resiliency Project. So this is Robin and Ben.
Yeah, this is just further discussion of what we've been having as far as the study that's being done by GMB. Ben has presented or put together a packet for the board and has a presentation.
Good evening, afternoon. Josh is working on getting this presentation up. Speak very loudly, okay, I'll show you. So Pump Station 5 resiliency options. At 2 or 3 meetings ago, we had presented some rough ideas of some different types of solutions for Pump Station 5. We wanted to further refine that for you guys, give a little bit more detail, nail some costs down to that, as well as give a little bit of an update on the rest of the report, where that stands, when we expect to get that to you and move forward. So kind of going to go through the background of Pump Station 5 and then talk about the various options that we've kind of put together for you guys. So
Hello.
That mic's not working.
I can sit there. That works with you guys. You tell me. Hello? Yep. All right. Sweet.
Much better.
Sweet. Awesome. So Pump Station 5 is located at the intersection of California Avenue and Cedar Avenue. The current, if you can go to the next slide, Josh. If the current electrical equipment is located below the board's critical elevation, which is 4.64 feet above the base flood elevation. The base flood elevation for this station is at an 8, so the critical elevation for this station is 12.64. That's saying all the electrical equipment needs to be above that level to be protected during flooding events. I'll note Pump Station 5, similar to many other pump stations in the system, and the design options or option that the board kind of moves forward with here will be setting precedent for what we do with these other stations. I would note Hornkill Avenue Pump Station is currently under design, and that would be probably the first one you would see implemented with the proposed solution. So pump station, so we proposed 4, I would say, unique solutions to the problem. I think it's important to note that we decided back when Austin was here that The station would not be active during the flooding event, but we would be protecting the electrical equipment from damage. So that's how we've proceeded through these different options. Option one is an elevated platform. If you can slide to the next one. It involves permanently raising the pump station's critical infrastructure above the flood elevation. We tried to be a little creative with this and make it look sort of like a lighthouse, symbolic of the lighthouse out on Kings Highway. We think, you know, this is probably the most protected type of option we have. It protects the critical elevation above, or protects the critical electrical equipment above the flooding elevation permanently. It requires no, you know, manpower input to protect the station. So the reliability is high, little to no maintenance. Some of the cons to this option, it's more obtrusive to the eye. It's more imposing than the existing small cedar structure that you saw there existing. Additionally, the access to this station would be via, you know, ladder, or, you know, if we wanted to eliminate a ladder, you know, a bucket truck or something to get the personnel up to the top of the station.
So just to be clear on this, you provided a picture of the lighthouse at the corner of Freeman and Kings.
Correct.
That's not what the station would look like. It would be a
Correct.
hearkening back to. I just don't want the public to get the impression that we're going to put lighthouses all over town.
You are correct. Yeah, we showed that as just trying to,
Yeah.
be symbolic. So generally, you know, we drew a sketch of what we thought it could look like. Obviously, this is a conceptual design. There's a lot of freedom in what we want to do if this is the selected option to move forward. But it's a single pillar post with a platform with your electrical equipment up top.
It's probably more like a crow's nest.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a good description. The enclosure for the electrical equipment, would we be looking at ugly cedar that rots again, or would it be open to the elements, or?
Currently, what we have is like open to the elements. It would just be, you know, you would see electrical panels.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's some sort of screening we could look at if we really, you know, desired to hide that a little bit more detail.
I really like the creativity behind this. It could be a signature of Lewes going forward, you know? So, okay, thank you. And I would suggest, if we do look at this one, that we might want to consider raising it above, even higher than the critical elevation we determined, because if it's going to be a lighthouse kind of thing, why not? And then maybe it would be a little protected from storm surge. Storm surge is my big concern that is not really addressed by any of these except the one with the disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that can be looked at site by site, but if it's close to a house,
yeah,
being more elevated, but I mean, if it's on, you know, an open space type of an area, you know,
Well, I assume that, I'm going to get over to my speak.
yes.
I assume that everything's going to be waterproof, watertight equipment,
The panels,
all the panels. and
yes,
so forth.
correct.
So
Yes.
hopefully, you know, unless it was sitting in water for periods of time, it probably would not.
Destroy it?
Destroy it.
A storm surge that lasted an hour maybe, or a tide, would that destroy it?
It shouldn't, I wouldn't think.
I mean, most of the electrical equipment that we have now is suitable for rain, but submergence
Salts.
is, and then salts
Yeah,
gets a little bit more hard to protect against.
yeah,
okay, let's move on.
yeah, right.
So that's option one. Option two that we have is a removable rack. If you can go to the next slide, Josh. The removable rack is a design that's allows the entire structure to be removed in the event of a storm surge. Basically, in the sketch, everything you see that's not bolted down, well, everything that you see that's above the concrete would be picked up and removed. We would, in this instance, we would unbolt the structure from the concrete. A lifting eye is there where a crane could come in, pick it up, set it on a truck, and you could remove it from, imminent danger. There's obviously pros and cons related to this. The pros, being that the station is similar to the existing station, the height's not very different, and additionally, it's, we'll say generally mostly protected from storm surge and, the critical elevation that the board's looking for. The downsides of this is, it's very manpower intensive. There's a lot of equipment that would be needed to pick it up, put it on a trailer and take it somewhere. I don't know if the board has all that equipment that would be able to lift that type of a structure. Additionally, you would need to disconnect these panels, some period before the storm happens. So this is, you'd be looking at known storm events, hurricanes, nor'easters, things like that, where something's happened, where you can take action. It makes the decision on you guys a lot more difficult of like, when do we do that? When do we say, all right, no more sewer service, we can't, we got to protect our equipment.
How many, I forget how many of these we're anticipating that we're going to have to protect?
16, wasn't it?
We're evaluating 16 stations. They're not all the same as Pump Station 5. I would say 8 to 9, maybe 10 stations are similar to this size of a station. We have bigger stations that we really can't implement this type of.
So we'd have to go around and pick up 8 or however.
Correct. And the sewer sheds that they go to, you would have to tell those customers, hey.
Yeah, we're shutting your sewer off.
Pretty much.
Well, but, so first of all, I think all of our flooding events are known events. I mean, I can't think of any event that would be, oh my God, there's flooding. That wasn't a nor'easter, a hurricane, or some event like that. So there is that. But the other part is, I guess I was envisioning with this option that we wouldn't be picking up the whole structure. It would be disconnects, then just moving the panels, which would seem to me to be easier. And you could actually put quick, latching disconnects on them.
So we did have our electrical engineer consultant look at that, and there is some level of quick disconnect cabling that's there. I think the concern is that's probably even more manpower intensive than lifting, coming in and lifting it up, undoing a few bolts, lifting it, taking it away.
But the point that you've already made, I mean, the fact that, like when Sandy was coming this direction, and when we would take those, we would probably have taken those things down at some point in advance of it. So those people would be without sewer power, and then it missed us. Well, we still had a pretty good storm, but it wasn't as bad as we thought. So the question of when you disconnect the source to the people we're talking about, that's a big question, because they'd be having to leave probably.
Yeah, that's a clearly valid.
Yeah.
But we're also been talking about the fact that, at some point, we're going to have to start shutting down sewer systems in the low-lying area to protect the plant.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right.
Yeah, I'll just say, to press this point, we recognize there's probably a level of acceptance by the public to say, crying wolf so many times before they're like, this, we don't want to deal with that type of an approach.
But the weatherman is always right.
Option 3 that we've looked at is providing a vault to hold the equipment, whether that's totally underground or a mix between above and below ground. The pros to being below ground, it's completely, non-obtrusive to the public's eye. There's not a lot of action necessary by the board in the case of a storm event, and the station has a little bit smaller footprint in general than the existing stations. Now, you're relying solely on the water tightness of a hatch and seals to protect your equipment. That hatch and those seals would need to be maintained on a frequent basis to make sure that they still provide water tightness, because if it's not watertight, then you're defeating the purpose of what we're doing.
So with this one, there's vulnerability even with a minor flooding event.
Correct.
Yeah, we're not talking sea level rise, we're not talking, yeah, okay,
Especially if it's at grade.
Yeah.
The top is at grade.
yeah.
Additionally, this type of a space is confined space, which requires confined space entry. I know Inframark has some of that equipment, but now if we're adding 8 to 9 stations of confined space entry, it really inhibits the amount of time it takes to go and address issues. And additionally, probably a sump pump will probably be required to provide a little bit of extra comfort level with this approach. There's only so much comfort I can provide with that level.
Your comment on the cons about the environment inside the vault, I mean,
Correct.
the amount of condensation that's going to be inside that vault, even if the watertight door is sealed, the ground is at constant 55, and the humidity,
Yeah, you probably have to put a dehumidifier in there,
Yeah,
and then how do you drain that?
and you probably need a sump pump to take the condensation from the walls, and most electrical equipment does not behave very well in.
Correct, yeah. And then the last option that we have, at least for this meeting, is a floating dock option. This design allows all the electrical equipment to be installed on a floating platform that would rise and fall with the different water levels. So it's more flexible in terms of, it doesn't matter what storm level it is, it can address all the storm levels. With this option, it would be secured horizontally with piles, reminiscent of an actual floating dock when it's in use. The height and the profile of the station is the same as existing stations. It's not that much higher. It's not that much obtrusive, aside from the piles that are there that aren't there now. And again, this would provide not a lot of needed manpower or anything related to the board if the flooding happens, or when the flooding event happens. Again, you're relying on a system to help protect the electrical equipment. You're relying on it actually floating up, properly floating up, not getting cocked in a certain way where it doesn't allow it to move up. And as well as the entanglement of the electrical cables. I think there is some maintenance that would be required, just making sure that the rollers work as best they can on the piles. But
I mean, I think the festooning issues can be addressed. I mean, seems to be relatively easy. The piles are going to be wooden, though?
we haven't fleshed that totally out in detail. I think we call out for well, no, that's an aluminum pile guide. We haven't fleshed it out totally.
Because a wooden pile would have me concerned because they're more susceptible to twisting, turning, so on. And if you want to secure smooth operation, I think you really need something more substantive.
And stainless, probably.
Good point. But that probably wasn't costed into the estimate, stainless.
No,
No.
no, that would make it a little bit more expensive.
Yeah,
Well, and they could be carbon steel below
Yeah.
and sleeved with stainless on the top part to conserve some cost. And also, from a strength perspective, and you're going to bed it in concrete.
And more than piles, I think tubing would be the type
Oh, yeah.
thing rather than a pile.
Well,
So
that,
it
yeah.
would be a smaller thing than sketched here.
Yeah.
So the next slide, we present a little bit of an overview of what we believe the costs options would be for this, or cost for these options. The range between the two, Josh, if you go to the next slide, the range between the two is approximately $289,000 to $578,000. With the removable rack option being the most expensive, because we propose that equipment would need to be purchased in order to allow that operation to occur. So options 1, 3, and 4, in our opinion, is relatively the same cost. They're separated by say $40,000. So they're all in the same general range. Obviously, if we look at the piles being a little bit different material, that would probably raise the cost. Like I said, we're in the high level overview of what we're looking at. So that's kind of where we are on Pump Station 5 options. What we've put together at this point in time. I think GMB's recommendation would be that the elevated platform is the most reliable, the most reliable option. It doesn't rely on anything going wrong to protect the equipment. It's a steadfast option. It's also probably a more obtrusive option, being elevated up above the ground the way it would be.
Yeah, what I was going to say, my 2 cents, or let everyone else chime in first.
Yeah, I think, I like option 1 if aesthetically we could make it pleasing and make it a signature of Lewes. It kind of shouts resiliency and we're prepared and those kind of good things, but we would need some kind of mock-up to see what it looked like and to gauge public opinion, I would think.
I like the simplicity of the floating dock and the fact that it's, less expensive helps too. And I think it could be gussied up a little bit to look better than, just this. So I think that's pretty interesting. I guess the pole, I'm envisioning this with 4 stainless steel pipes rather than big piles and so forth. So I think it could be a smaller thing than we sketched here. But I think it could work.
So I'm going to split the middle. I think they're both right, but I think it's based upon the situation, the location. If there's a lot of open space or a fair amount of open space around it, option 1 seems reasonable. If it's in tight areas, I think option 4. So I would say we would propose that we go ahead with the 2 options, not for 5, but for the future, the 16 pump stations we're talking about, or 8, whatever it is, the 8 pump stations.
What would you consider tight? Is like on the beach side, the lots are relatively small and close together. Is that tight? Is that you're considering tight? And then
Well, I think
Pilottown Village, which we're not.
if the pump station is located very close to a house, then,
Well, the controls could be somewhere more remote than right next to them. It could be.
but that's once again,
Yeah.
I think, without knowing the configurations of each of the 8 sites, I'm just saying, in my mind, either of those 2 options are viable and are reasonable. And if one size fits all, great. But
If I may add, if that's the way the board would like to go as part of the resiliency study for those specific stations that would be, fitting this criteria, we could identify which one we think would be the better solution in those options. If you would.
That would be helpful, yeah.
If you would want to go that route.
because they're going to be, with the addition of what Press suggested, the stainless steel, they're going to be close together in price.
Yes.
And I'm afraid that if we go with option one all over the place, it kind of becomes repetitive. Now, option four also shows resiliency.
It does, it does.
So, from that perspective,
Would the cables be inside the,
no,
No.
they're shown coming from the top and festooning down.
So
Couldn't they go into the top so it wouldn't have to come all the way down?
say that again?
Could the cable enter the unit rather than coming down the post and then being tied in at the bottom and run back up to the controls? Could the cable go straight to the control panels? And you would see it crossing, but under the little cap you have on there, but wouldn't that be simpler?
So that was my initial idea to have it underneath. Part of the concern with that is as you roll it, as it goes up and then it comes back down, how does that cable get, corded back up and fit inside the profile of the station? If something were to come in and, float through and damage the cable, I guess you have that issue too if it's on the pile, but.
Well, but hanging from above, if you festoon it within the side of a Chinese finger or something like that, it seems to be more reliable from operations than exactly what you described. Yeah,
how did the Dutch do it? Because they've got houses that raise up on platforms, I don't know.
I think it's a question that we have to work out, but I mean, we use these types of things like on elevators and things like that with the hydraulic pipe tubing goes up and down and other things on equipment and so forth. I'm sure that could be worked out.
that festooning is all from the top.
Yeah.
Look at where the cables are.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That festooning comes down and loops. And
Yeah.
Anyway, that's in the details. I mean, it's.
So if I'm hearing the board correctly, option 1 and 4 would be the direction you'd want to go for 5. We would identify on the other stations in the resiliency report which option we think would be the way to go. Is that correct, or do you want to
I think
pick
so.
a?
Yeah,
Is Bob still online?
yeah.
Is Bob not raising his hand? Hello, Bob.
I like number 1.
Comments you want to make?
He likes number 1.
Yeah.
Would you be okay with looking at 1 and 4 for the specific
Yeah.
sites?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let the record show that Bob is shaking his head in the affirmative. Okay.
Proxying for him.
So just for pump station number 5, the site would dictate which option to go with? Is that the direction?
I'm wondering if the homeowners should be queried.
No.
No? I mean, I know the woman who lives at Pump Station 5. but- And I'm kind of curious what she would prefer.
Well, she might move tomorrow, so we can't,
Right.
people's, yeah.
I will take public input, obviously.
Yeah.
But
Oh, sure.
I know where Pump Station 5 is, I know, but I'd have to go back out there and look at it now from this perspective.
Yeah.
So, all right, so I think was it, Rob?
In either options, I think currently the station there is probably a little bit smaller. We would have to look at easements if it's not in the right of way, which probably it's not. Partially could be,
Correct, yes.
but it would be for all of them
Good
also,
point,
not
good
just,
point.
not just 5.
And I'll say to further complicate that one, Cedar Avenue is a Del Dot road, so that may complicate things more.
We have 2 distinguished engineers in the audience here. Would we be willing to accept comments from them?
at the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
That's what it said.
Okay.
Yeah, more than glad to. All right, so the marching orders at this point are pursue options 1 and 4 and look at the site-specific application.
Sounds good. And I was just going to say, I can give a little bit of an update on the rest of the resiliency study as well, because that was included in our report, if you're willing to listen.
Do we want to do that now, or
Oh, I'm sorry, I was
you said
not paying attention to you.
the rest of the resiliency report that is attached?
Let's go.
All right, so to date, we visited all the pump stations that are in the current critical floodplain, and we've taken pictures, provided you in the report, the critical elevations superimposed on the picture showing, where the electrical equipment is versus where the critical elevations are. So that's in the full report we gave you, that's all the pump stations as being evaluated. So I didn't include them in this report, but you can look through them and see kind of the larger impacts. We've also met with Inframark on operational improvements / needs for the stations that are included in here to understand, if there's things we should do and include in the report as we need. And finally, a report's being summarizing the study, and our finding is being drafted. Our aim is to target August for a draft report to you guys to consider. And then finally, not included on this, Pump Station 3 update. A few months ago, we talked about the direction for Pump Station 3. We've met with DEMA and working on, in terms of figuring out what's required to be submitted to support the request for more funding, finalizing that draft to get to Robin so we can send that to DEMA to move that along. And that is the Pump Stations Resiliency update.
Thank you very much, Ben. Item 11, open forum, general discussion on the wastewater treatment plant long-range plan update. So, just a very, very high level, we've been meeting with Sussex County, specifically the negotiating team is Barbara Curtis, myself, Robin, and Todd, Hans, and Gina from the county. And we're making progress. We still have a couple of items to finalize to be able to get to something that's a draft. We will then present that to the public and have a workshop. And as I said at the beginning of the meeting, we're shooting for mid to late July for that workshop. And that's about all I had. Moving on, item number 12. Open forum general discussion on the resolution for amending the Lewes BPW drug-free and alcohol-free policy. So we've discussed this twice, I think it's twice or 3 times before. So we now have a new revised version. So, first, do I have a motion to read by title only, the resolution? And what resolution is this? 6.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. President, members of the board,
Aye.
resolution number 25-006, a resolution of the board of, the board of, is it not? I've never had somebody say my voice doesn't catch.
Mike, project.
Yeah, we certainly are. All right. Oh. So you're saying I'm the problem? Resolution number 25-006, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Board of Public Works of the City of Lewes amending its drug-free and alcohol-free workplace policy. Mr. President, members of the board, resolution number 25-006 has been read by title only and placed before the board for its consideration and adoption.
discussion?
I did receive 2 minor comments from a board member. We did not receive any public comment. We did post them. We did not receive any comment on it. But line 160, the board member would like to replace or remove the word positive and should just read the laboratory will transmit all drug tests, not just positive. And line 249 should read, safety-sensitive position means all positions designated. Add the word all instead of any. Which one?
I think
49.
what I intended was
249, Tom.
to remove the any in line 250 and replace it with all.
No, section 160 seems okay to me.
It's 249, talking about.
Oh, he's
Oh, I thought she
looking.
said 160, I'm sorry.
Yep, there was 2 different changes.
Yeah,
One
2
was line
comments.
160, and I think on line 250, the definition of safety-sensitive position, 250 should say all instead of any supervisory.
So do I have a motion to approve the resolution with the 2 aforementioned changes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Four is, yeah. Okay. The next one is open forum general discussion on a resolution for amending the BPW compilation of policies regarding finance capitalization threshold policy. Information discussion, Richard Nichols and Kim Belloy.
I can take it. So this is another policy that the board discussed briefly during the last meeting, consistent with the policy amendment procedure. It has been posted for public comment. There were no public comments received, so now it is ready for the board's consideration.
So do I have a motion to have the resolution read by title only?
So moved.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. President, members of the board, resolution number 25-007, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Board of Public Works of the City of Lewes amending its compilation of policies regarding the capitalization threshold. Mr. President, resolution number 25-007 has been read by title only and placed before the board for its consideration and adoption.
Any discussion?
I think it's appropriate. It's just an update of an old resolution.
Yep. So do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Open forum, general discussion on a resolution for amending the BPW compilation of policies regarding the 5-year capital budget. Richard Nichols and Kim.
I can take this one again.
I think you can.
what-
We've also discussed this one before.
Yes, and no public comments have been received. It has been posted per the policy, so it's ready for consideration.
I have a motion to read by title only the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Mr. President, members of the board, resolution number 25-008, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Board of Public Works of the City of Lewes amending its compilation of policies regarding the 5-year capital budget. Mr. President, resolution number 25-008 has been read by title only and placed before the board for its consideration and adoption.
Okay. Any discussion?
None.
I have a motion.
I'm just referring to him. Okay.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to approve the resolution 008?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Open forum, general discussion on the review of the BPW bylaws. Mr. Hoffman.
Take this one as well. So this one is a standing agenda item. You have 90 days after every annual meeting to do a review of the bylaws. It's just to check in whether there is anything that you want to change. If there is something you would like staff to look into, now's the time to bring it up. If not, we'll look at it again next year within 90 days of the annual meeting.
I have nothing.
Nothing, I guess do you have any comments on it?
I do not, no.
Bob?
Did staff have any?
Bob shakes his head in the negative. So,
It's the first time, I think.
We're going to invite you back.
Open forum, general discussion on change order, on change order to increase the approved bid amount for the Pilottown Village Storm Project. Robin and G&B.
Okay, back in January, the board was presented with a bid quote for the relining and catch basin repair along Ocean View Boulevard. The amount of the bid that was approved by the board at the time was $132,366. As noted in GMB's letter, as part of the pay app, there appeared to be a miscalculation in the total number of footage of the relining, which resulted in an increase of $35,766 to the price of the quote or the bid that was awarded back in January. Felt it was needed to come back because it was an overage on the amount that was approved by the board. Also, this item was a line item on a capital improvement plan. Now that total for all that will be over that what was put in our capital plan, which will probably require a amendment to that plan that was approved. I don't know if Ben can provide some more insight on the reasoning for the increase. Yeah.
And just to, Robin and I, when we met with Ben and Charlie, discussed this item, and we expressed our displeasure on, being taken by surprise and this not being caught early on. So, we've had that exchange, and but now Ben, please.
Yeah, hello? There we go. All right, thank you. Yeah, so I would just like to note that all the work that was called for to be completed was completed. So all the work the board wanted to be done that was on the plans to be done was done. Nothing extra was added. Looking back, it appears that, changes to the bid schedule during bidding, some numbers got mixed up on our end, and a pipe was left off of the bid form inadvertently. It appears like we subtracted a pipe when we shouldn't have subtracted a pipe. I'll say, GMB's made changes prior to this issue coming to light to help reduce these types of errors. And obviously, seeing this error, we're focusing more on trying to reduce these types of errors. I can't say there's going to be no errors ever when we do work, but we're trying to reduce them as much as possible. That's kind of what I can say about that.
Questions from the board?
No, just look forward to it again.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big number.
Yeah, we know errors get made, but, especially when they hit us in the pocketbook, it's particularly hard.
And when we didn't know about it until now, I mean, when the work started to be done, it should have been recognized.
Agreed. I've talked with Andrew, who's been leading the project on, part related to that issue and, catching things earlier. We fell short there.
Right.
Kim has a comment.
Can you guys hear me?
Go ahead, Kim.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
I can hear her, you guys can.
Okay. My question was if we can if we approve that this increase happens, if that can be the approval for the budget to increase, or do I need to bring back the budget to present formally?
I didn't hear the beginning of the comment.
Restate.
Okay. My question was if we approve this increase, can that be the approval to change the budget, or do I have to bring that back formally?
It's up to the board. And do it one of two ways. If you wanted to approve the change order and then also approve the budget, the motion would be to approve the change order and to make a corresponding adjustment to the budget. So you can do that. If you would rather Kim come back with the budget adjustment, then you can do that as well, but it's the prerogative of the board.
It seems like they're tied to each other. It's the same number, that we should do it all as one.
Yeah.
But having a look at what it does to the budget would be helpful too.
Usually you review the budget quarterly, so I believe you were going to look at it next month anyway. And Kim, do you have additional adjustments you think you might need to make?
Yes, I'll have to adjust a couple things on O&M.
So maybe just approve the change order tonight, and then that way you can incorporate that in the budget amendment next month.
Makes sense?
I think that makes sense, yeah.
So do I have a motion to approve a change order for the amount of, what is it,
$35,766.
Reluctantly so moved.
Second.
Also reluctantly, but yes. Bob?
Okay.
All right.
Oh,
Did you call for the vote? I heard a second.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Mike, thank you. So do I have a motion to approve increasing the budget?
No.
No.
So it was moved and seconded for the change order, but now, moved and seconded for the change order, but now you need to call for the vote.
yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So, vote?
Aye,
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
okay. Bob indicated aye.
Yep.
yes. Bob gave a thumbs up rather
Yes.
than nodding this time.
Yes.
All right. Open forum and general discussion on acceptance of Mariners Retreat.
This item will need to be removed off the agenda due to some outstanding issues still.
Okay. Open forum and general discussion on easements with the Gibbs property and Schell Brothers. Robin?
Okay, what we have, we basically have two projects here. The Gibbs Commercial Project, which is a site plan project to add additional building on the existing lot. And then White's Pond Preserve, which is adjacent parcel. Both are under city review process, and both these projects will require the installation of utility services that will eventually be turned over to the BPW. These areas of a transformer, a sewer line, and a water line will be placed in private areas and not in a right-of-way. mostly the area of access road that's going to go back to the White's Pond Preserve parcel was originally going to be, the access was going to be dedicated to the city. The developer decided to make it a private road. So that's one of the reasons why we need an easement for that area, because the utilities will be in that private road area. That's one. The transformer for the Gibbs property will be on the Gibbs property, just adjacent to the access road. That's the second easement. And then there's a sewer line that has to run to a manhole that's going to be at the entrance of the Gibbs property. That's also in a private area. Mike and staff has looked over the agreements, feel they're adequate. We just need to get approval to move forwards. And
So there's adequate space for our people to service the equipment?
Yes.
Within those easements?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'll just add, we reviewed it on BPW side. This is also, thank you. This has also been reviewed and by both the Gibbs property owner, White's Pond Preserve. So all parties are in agreement, it's just pending board approval.
Does the city have any comments?
The city has no comments at this time.
Okay, so do I have a motion to accept the easement agreements?
To approve, and you can approve them as a packet, but I would just spell them out.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the easements for the Gibbs property sewer utility base easement, the Gibbs property electric utility easement, and the Gibbs Schell utility easement?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Another aye.
Bob indicated yes, thumbs up.
Open forum general discussion on Sargent Lundy for the distribution and design proposal for West 4th Street. So this is the undergrounding of the utilities. And so this will be Robin and I. So Sargent Lundy came out about 2 weeks ago, and Robin and I did a walk down of 4th Street to look at it from a perspective of undergrounding the utilities proactively. Sargent Lundy originally thought the project was going to be difficult, and then when we actually did the walk down, they said it was going to be very, very complex. And they gave an estimated price tag of approximately $40 million. Because of, if you go out and look at 4th Street, the houses are very, very close together. There really isn't spots to put pad-mounted transformers. And if they would be very obtrusive to the houses. And with the having to run from one side of the road to the other, with the utilities that are under there, it would make it very expensive. So they were going to go back and, they went back and thought about it more, and that's when they came back with, a ballpark of $40 million. And so, Robin, anything you want to add?
well, as noted in the discussion that we had several months ago when the board brought this up, was to have them put together a quote for the design phase of the potential project. And as noted in that quote, the terms, they're estimating a cost of $180,000, plus or minus 20% for the design.
engineering.
Yeah, to do the design.
And while,
I was hoping that was the cost to implement the project.
oh, you dreamer.
I believe in fairy tales.
So, while I'm very supportive of, resiliency and undergrounding, the idea of doing this on 4th Street for this cost versus being serious about investigating the beach side, which is much, much more vulnerable, it doesn't seem like the right place to spend the money.
I think we all agree.
Yeah, we all agree.
Yeah.
It's an easy one.
Yeah.
Gosh.
All right, so,
Same reason, I would love to have it. I think we all would love to have it.
Yeah.
I get questioned about that by residents and ratepayers all the time. Why can't we put them underground? That's the reason.
it's very expensive in an old town, especially with infrastructure like we have, where it dates back so far. You don't have really perfect information of where it's located. And, starting from zero, I mean, like we see all of our requirements are for undergrounding, but and I'd rather focus on the most risky areas.
Agree.
All right, so
Did Bob give us?
I don't think we need,
Oh, okay.
I don't think we need a motion or anything.
All right.
And we can just turn down, tell Sergeant Lundy thank you. Okay?
That's it, isn't it?
Board and staff request for agenda items. Anything specific, other than we have Bob's on for next month? And,
Can I, is this working? No.
Push.
Is it working now? There you go. This is not, obviously, I'm not making an agenda request. However, this is a request I'd like to make in a sense. In the conversations you've had about resiliency projects, the city is in the process of potentially establishing an environment and resiliency committee that would be focused primarily on our resiliency fund. And the scope of that is yet to be determined, but most likely be focusing on various projects to target, fund, look at, and right now, we're thinking about having, a business owner, citizens, others, but an engineer. But it just dawned on me listening to how much the BPW is focused on resiliency, that it would be terrific to have either someone from this panel or staff or maybe someone in the community that is familiar with your projects and others.
so you're aware that Mr. Preston Lee ran the resiliency committee.
And we had somebody from the city on that committee, so it'd be really.
I was not aware of that,
Yes.
but perhaps, I don't want to.
And we're going to be putting together another resiliency committee now on the electrical side,
Electrical side, okay.
which I'm going to be leading, but we're not going to do that till the fall. We have too many other fish in the business.
No, I understand, but I think since we're doing this and you are also going down that same path, maybe there's an opportunity to have one committee at least overlap and ensure that,
Would you be willing to?
Sure.
Well, I wouldn't want to put you on the spot. We don't have to make a decision now, but
No, I think if Preston's agreeing to it, when you put your committee together, feel free to invite him.
okay, perfect. I'll talk to Press later.
Okay. Call to the public. Same thing as I said before. This time, the comments we're looking for is against the agenda items. And there's a 3-minute limit, and you can't, give your time to others. So with that said,
I always volunteer. Is that all right?
that's absolutely.
Stepping over. Sure. With your pumps that you're looking at, the various ones, just from my standpoint, I like the floating pump, because what are you going to have? You're going to have water. Stationary things move, no matter how aesthetically pleasing they are. They're not going to be there after a really bad storm. But things that float, that are stabilized in a sufficient way that there's flexibility, those will outlast what you need to have, in my estimation.
I have absolutely no background in it, but I know that science works, and floating is something that's necessary when you have water. So there was another thing, and I apologize, but I'm going to be curt. If you made a $35,000 mistake, you eat it, and you do not pass it back to the board. I don't think there'd be a person in this city who would say, sorry, you made an error. That just seems logical to me. It isn't something that you pass on. I don't get to pass on those mistakes to somebody else. I don't know why a firm does. So that's all I have to say.
And for the record, you're still Kathy Edwards, right?
I am.
You haven't changed your name.
No, I haven't. I am called many things, though.
Thank you. Please, we're recording, so
Yeah.
thank you very much. Any other comments?
Mark?
State your name for the record and,
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mark Prouty, and I live in Wolf Point. I found it interesting, the report done by the engineers. Notwithstanding the idea of the aesthetics for the option number 1, which I find to be rather interesting, and I'm thinking maybe more like a Dutch windmill rather than a, however, the floating system, I think, could be made to be aesthetically pleasing. It could be in a floating house, just like a boat can have a house on it. I don't think the cost of the stainless steel piping for stanchions would be that huge a difference. I think it would be necessary to use stainless. But a very, very interesting and well put together report, I thought. I have one other question that I've been wondering about over the last several months, and it has regard to the, is there a report available to the public on the findings at the Wolf Neck wastewater system, the historical findings? I have not been able to find any reports or information on that, and I was wondering if you know of any.
is that the end of your comments? No. Is that the end of your comments? And
That's all my comments,
okay,
yes.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
If you dare.
In this case, Hans Medler, citizen. So I happen to agree with both Press and Mark that the floating is the best option. Just for the National Electric Code, the setbacks, the clearances for the doors, the ladder access, the whole safety OSHA requirements on the raised platform is not very conducive. And, you know, when you have it floating up, there's no staff coming during the flood. Once it's back down, all the safety aspects are addressed. I feel that's by far the most eloquent solution.
Right, and just, we don't have any control over Wolf Neck. So any questions on Wolf Neck, that's your man. All right. So call to the press. Bill's not here. And so do I have a motion to go to executive session?
Was Kim here? Or she?
She's out.
Briefly, yeah.
So motion to go to executive session?
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.